All right, dead leg. I got Indiana ranked 17th, top 25 and one. I got them picked to finish first in the Big Ten. How you feeling about Mike Woodson's team?
Putting that much pressure on Woodson year two, huh?
It's
Expectations
time.
that high for
It's
Indiana, my man?
it's time. It's time.
It's
We, we
time.
it's time. We've waited long enough for another Big Ten title. It's time, Mike Woodson.
When
No, I think
listeners,
I'm
okay,
not
go
putting
ahead.
any pressure on him. I'm acknowledging that he's got a high level roster that's I think going to create the best basketball team in the Big Ten. As I'm looking at the top 25 and one earlier today, I wonder if I should even have them higher. I like the roster a lot.
Should have the best player in the league, right?
Trace Jackson Davis, and maybe the best freshman in the league, Jalen Hood-Schifino. I know he's not ranked as high as some other guys. He's he's a five-star guy. He's only 23rd in the class of 2021. I'm just a huge fan. Like I saw him on the grassroots circuit. He played with Team Thad, which is based in my hometown, and I went out to a practice and saw him and met with him, talked with him. Seemed like a really sharp young man. And then at the EYBL, he was really good. And then he popped positive for COVID and had to shut it down. But I think he's great. I think he's going to be really, really good. I like this team a lot.
I really like Hood-Schifino. He can be the best freshman potentially in the Big Ten there. Last season was, a little bit of a shaky road to get a bid, remember. There was doubt heading into Selection Sunday, but from my objective standpoint, I think Woodson got the job done in year one. IU beat Wyoming in Dayton, and then, it got routed by St. Mary's in the first round. But I would think you'd have to say it was satisfactory for his first season, getting to 21 games, making the tournament. First time since 2016, Archie Miller would have gotten Indiana comfortably in, or at least with room to spare, had we had a 2020 dance, but we didn't. What was interesting to me in looking at IU heading into this season, comparing what it did last year and then kind of in the final Miller years, if you look at the statistical performance and trends from the final couple of seasons under Archie, the players kind of ran the race more than Woodson and the coaching staff changed their situation last season. The turnover rate was identical, 17.2% last season and in Miller's final season. 3-point defense, assist percentage on offense, 3-point accuracy, offensive rebound rate. They were near identical in back-to-back years. Last year's team, from a tempo perspective, was as fast as IU was on average in its 4 seasons under Miller there. So last year was an improvement, but in actual, statistical categories, there was a lot of familiarity, which makes a certain amount of sense considering a lot of the players that were there also played under Archie. For Trace, he's my dark horse pick to win National Player of the Year. He will not be the preseason National Player of the Year. I think he'll probably be preseason first-team All-American. I would argue he should be. At the absolute worst, he'll be, I would think, the top pick on a second-team preseason All-American list. But I think that he has the potential. And if Woodson values him the right way and builds it around him, Xavier Johnson, Race Thompson are back, Miller Kopp, who was, a little hit and miss. They'll be productive, and they're why you've got them top 20. But TJD, I think, has the goods to be there from a production standpoint. If Indiana can win the Big Ten, then you tell me IU wins the Big Ten. You win the Big Ten, you're going to be in the conversation at worst to be a 2 seed, right? If you win the Big Ten, and then if Trace Jackson Davis is the best player, he could be National Player of the Year. So he would be my dark horse pick. But Hood-Schifino is a dynamic combo point guard. Malik Renault is another fellow freshman. He's like 6'8". He will be Jackson Davis's backup. We'll see what he can do. Caleb Banks is another name to know. And the last guy on the roster for me that I want to see make a jump is Tamar Bates, who was not the scorer Indiana fans were hoping to see last season. He just was kind of rough. Actually, a kind of a wild story. He's a dad. He became a father 2 days after Indiana lost in the NCAA tournament. I guess he flew back to Portland the day after IU lost, and then had a baby girl. Had Indiana won, I don't know if he would have flown anyway. He would have been playing literally the day that he became a dad. Kind of wild, but new perspective on his life. And he's a guy who is a little bit further down the depth chart. But if Indiana is going to be what we're we're positing it can or should be, I think Tamar Bates has got to make a pretty big jump. And then IU was 95th in offensive efficiency last season at Ken Palm, 24th in defense. I would expect this team to be another. I basically think this team should be a top 20 defensive unit. That offensive ranking's got to go from 95 to, at least top 50. If it's going to be the best team in the Big Ten, we'll wait and see. What are your extended thoughts on what Woodson has here in year 2 on the roster and your overall expectations beyond where you've got him slotted in the conference?
Well, that is among the reasons I think I should maybe have them a little higher than where I have them, is because if I think they're going to finish first in the Big Ten, they're probably going to be better than 17th in the country, right? So like this is a thing that I should probably consider going forward. When I'm ranking teams in the off season, I don't look at conference affiliation. So it didn't occur to me as I was slotting teams that I've got the Big Ten champion 17th. I just think the Big Ten champion is probably going to be better than 17th in the country. So that's a little bit of a discrepancy that I should perhaps resolve. But I do think they're going to be the best team in the Big Ten. You mentioned Tamar Bates. He was ranked 30th in the class of 2021, high-level guy. Didn't really do much last season. Like, he's a quality perimeter defender, but broadly speaking, he got 3.9 points in 14 and a half minutes per game. There's a lot of thought among Indiana people that he could be in for a breakthrough season. We had multiple guys have breakthrough sophomore seasons in the Big Ten last season. Jaden Ivey at Purdue, being among the most notable ones. I'm not saying Tamar Bates is going to do that or anything like that, but if he can, he could turn into somebody who's starting for Indiana. That wouldn't shock me. Although I don't know how you keep Jalen Hood-Schifino off the floor in the starting lineup. I would have him and Xavier Johnson playing together. Now they're both point guards, but 2 point guard backcourts aren't bad. Johnson was really good last season and great down the stretch. He averaged 16.6 points, 6.6 assists, 4.0 rebounds, and 1.5 steals in his final 10 games. Turns it over a little bit too much, but he's a quality point guard at the high major level. And I'm higher on Hood-Schifino than most. So listen, Mike Woodson knows more about his team than I do, but I want Jalen Hood-Schifino getting major minutes as a starter, as a freshman. And I think he can play on or off the ball. But if one of your problems is Xavier Johnson turning the ball over too much, like, how crazy is it to just put the ball in the hands of Jalen Hood-Schifino a little more than you otherwise would if you didn't have another point guard of starting caliber, in your program. On Trace Jackson Davis, like, he's, obviously Indiana's version of Drew Timme, Armando Bacot, Hunter Dickinson, Oscar Tshiebwe, back in college, because an NIL deal at Indiana, I'm assuming, is worth more than any pro options he would have had. Like, he's a traditional big, and so there's no great spot for him in the NBA. I'm not saying he'll never play in the NBA. I'm just saying he's not a great prospect because he only took 14 jump shots last season. Period.
Yeah.
14 jump shots.
That's got to change. By the way, I think that will change this season. But yes, that was the glaring part about what he was doing. He was very productive and very good, but the dynamism wasn't there.
Yeah, he only took 3 3-pointers. So far through 3 years at Indiana, he's taken 1,053 field goal attempts and never made a 3 and only attempted a 3. So not really a great NBA prospect, probably a second-round pick at best, but that won't prevent him from being an awesome college basketball player. And I just think Indiana's really strong at the 1-2-5. If we're saying Xavier Johnson, Jalen Hood-Schifino are a 2 point guard backcourt, and then Trace Jackson Davis, that's really, really, really good. And I could see Schifino being freshman of the year and Trace Jackson Davis being Big Ten player of the year. And yeah, I won't be shocked if Mike Woodson in year 2 at Indiana has got the Hoosiers operating at the tip top of the sport, or at least near it. Last season, listen, I agree with you. like getting to the NCAA tournament in year one, like that's you got over the bar. But they struggled. You know, they finished below 500 in the Big Ten. I don't think they'll be anything like that this season. I think they'll be great from start to finish, and won't run into the issues that they ran into last season. Remember, they had the incident; they suspended a bunch of people. Northwestern game, I think.
Yeah.
You know, if you can keep that kind of stuff, you know, in between the lines, then yeah, this is a team that could win the Big Ten. In fact, it's the team I think will win the Big Ten.